welcome once again to Live with Your Agent Luz. My name is Luz Baez and I am a realtor here in the Virginia area in Richmond, or what we call affectionately RVA, which includes the areas of Chesterfield, Midlothian, Goochland, Henrico, um, Short Pump, and I think, and Powhatan. So those are the areas that I cover, as well as Petersburg and Hopewell. So welcome to our live. We are here every Wednesday at noon. Hope you are having a good lunch. Go ahead and share with us on our comment. What are you having for lunch today? I hope it's something good and healthy. If not, enjoy it anyways. Um, so today, like I said, I hope you guys are having a great week. And before I start with our session today, I just want to remind you that if you have any questions or any comments, or there's a topic that you specifically would like to cover, I want to encourage you to go ahead and put it in the comments, or you can send me a message and we will cover that topic. And we are here every Wednesday at noon. And what are we doing? We are talking all things real estate. So in some of our sessions, it'll be me educating about real estate things, and then in others we'll have some special guests, and we have some of those scheduled to come on in the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that. But today, the last two live sessions, we talked about real estate terminology, and we had a part one and part two, kind of like words that fly when you're going through a real estate transaction, things to know about the real estate transaction process itself. Well, today we are going to cover the who's who in a real estate transaction. So in the last two sessions, we covered kind of like the what's, the different documents that I kind of talked about in a real estate transaction. But today we're actually going to talk about who's who. And when you buy a house or when you sell a house, when you have a real estate transaction, it's a pretty big thing, right? It's one of the biggest investments that you'll do, you will have in your whole entire life. And there's a lot of legal things that go into it. And, it's not just one person, but there are many people involved in this transaction. And so I don't know about you, but a lot of us have the habit of, we get with the realtor, and the realtor, who is the real estate agent, will give us some paperwork, and we'll sign it. And even as I work with buyers, as I worked with buyers, thus far, it's like I try to tell them, like, listen, read through the contract. I know it's a lot, but I want you to understand what you're reading and not just sign off paperwork, right? And then we just kind of just let it roll. And so today the goal is to kind of educate as far as like who's the who. So when you are going through a real estate transaction, you kind of know what's going on a little bit better. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the buyer and the seller, right? So that's kind of self-explanatory. In a real estate transaction, you have the buyer, the one who's going to buy the house, and then the seller, the individual who owns the home, or the bank or whatever, that's considered a seller. And then the buyer is the individual or individuals who are actually going to stamp their name on the deed, the purchase contract for the house. So the ones who are buying the house, right? So who, in a real estate transaction, you have a realtor involved, right? And I hesitated when I say that, because there are some houses when they're for sale by owner, and that's still considered a real estate transaction. You still have a seller and you still have a buyer. Some of these situations have a realtor that's kind of like a limited service realtor, and some of them don't. Sometimes the owner is an actual real estate agent. So that's why I kind of hesitated when I was talking about that. But nonetheless, you have a buyer and you have a seller, right? And then you have the realtor. So the realtor is your trusted professional that you choose to work with to make this transition a little bit easier. You know, realtors, we have to go to school, we have to get a license, we have to get certified, we have to know what we're doing, we have to get CEs, you know, to keep up with the trends and keep up with all the legal stuff and keep up with, you know, the nuances of the market. So, you know, you get with your realtor, someone who you trust to get you through this transaction, because, like I said, there's a lot of legal paperwork. And then your realtor is, you know, you go look at a house, your realtor takes you around, you see the house that you love or that, you know, you want to put a contract on, an offer on, and your realtor goes and writes up the offer, you know, sends it to you, you sign it, and that's called a purchase agreement, and that's about a 10-page paper, a 10-page document, just a purchase agreement alone, and you have other documents that kind of go with that. And so your realtor, you know, takes care of putting those documents together, sending them to you. You know, the buyer looks over the documents, right? And if you have any questions, you know, you ask your realtor, you sign your documents. Everything is pretty much done electronically nowadays. I remember when we bought our first house, actually our first and second home, we didn't do it electronically. And, you know, we had to actually, you know, sign every single paper, you know, by hand. I mean, your arm was hurting. And that was not even at the closing. That was just the purchase agreement with all of the other extra disclosures that are signed. So once you sign that, you know, it's sent to the seller or the listing agent. So there's a realtor, there's two realtors kind of involved in this transaction, right? There is what we consider a buyer's agent or the agent that represents the buyer. And then there's the agent that represents the seller, which is considered the listing agent. And the listing agent is the one who actually lists the property. That's the one that we communicate with. And, you know, that listing agent represents the seller himself. So the agents communicate amongst each other regarding their clients to each other, you know, and that's how that process kind of takes place. So you have your listing agent on the other side that represents the seller, buyer's agent that represents the buyer. So we also have the lender. So, of course, we've talked about in this market, the wisest thing to do, or what's being mainly really pushed, is that the buyer should be pre-qualified before they go in to look for a home, right? And that gives you the buying power in this market. Was still considered a hot market, where the inventory is still kind of considered low. Therefore, you know, you want to have that pre-qualification letter, pre-approval, ready to go, so that we know how much we're looking for, how much of a house you can buy, and you have that already in your armor, so that when you're ready to put in an offer, you go ahead and you're able to put in that offer because they know that you'll be able to afford the house based on the amount that you've been pre-approved. So how do you do that? You go to the lender. And so the lender, or we call them loan officers, same difference. So lender, loan officers, they are the ones who, you know, they take your information, they run your credit score, they ask you all the, you know, questions regarding your income, your debt to income, calculate your debt to income ratio, and, you know, kind of let you know from there, well, do you qualify, how much you qualify. If you don't, then most lenders will give you a game plan. The good lenders give you a game plan as to how to go about doing that. You can, you know, usually we prefer that you work with a local lender. So when you talk to your realtor will most likely will kind of get you to a local realtor. And let me explain why that is. You know, there are lenders online that you can, go and compare. You can compare, what do you call it? You can compare quotes and see how much, what the best interest is. And that's great. You know what I mean? However, in reality, if you're looking at a house and we need to get to a lender a little bit after hours, they're only 9 to 5. So if we're, trying to get in an offer to a home that evening and I need to call the lender, it's kind of harder to get a hold of those lenders, especially sometimes you got to be on hold for a while versus a local one where I could just call or shoot a text message to and they can give me the information much faster. So, and then that helps the buyer, you know, get the offer in much faster too. So really it's like a time thing, time is of essence when you'll hear that term too. Time is of essence when we're dealing with a real estate transaction. We want to go ahead and, get the offer in as soon as possible, and then do all the other things as soon as possible as well. So, it's important to get with a lender first and foremost. And if you don't have one or if you don't know one, then definitely hook yourself up with a local realtor. And vet your realtor, of course. Make sure that your realtor is going to work on your behalf as far as like keep you informed of everything. You want to make sure that you have that trust build up with your realtor as well. So, your realtor can hook you up with a good lender that they work with to kind of get the ball rolling and get you on the right track to home ownership. Okay, so we covered lender. Let's cover the appraiser. So once you put in a purchase contract and the offer gets accepted, there's a home inspection that gets done, and we can kind of skip that one. You know what? Before we go to appraisal, let's go to home inspection. So you have the home inspector. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I want to put this out there that the buyer is responsible for the home inspection. Should you get a home inspection? Yes, I know that there is, you talk to your realtor, you have that conversation with your realtor about it, whether you can or not, depending on how the home is sold. If it's sold as is for informational purposes only, I recommend still have the inspection. But there are some clients, some people that don't want to spend that money to have the inspection. Just know, with everything that you do or don't do today, you'll find out about it later. So, it's due diligence to really do a home inspection. So, keep that in the back of your mind. Definitely want to get that done. So with that said, the home inspection is done by a professional home inspector. He or she comes to do the home inspection. Usually it's a few hours, and they cover, everything in the home. And then they kind of give you a list of things that need to be repaired or that they recommend they be repaired. And, then you negotiate with the seller as far as like what you would want to be repaired before the closing of the property. So, keeping that in mind, a home inspector is the one who takes care of that. And then you also have the appraiser. So what the appraiser does is the appraiser goes in and makes sure that the house is valued at the listing price or around the listing price. Right? Nobody wants to really pay more than what something is worth, right? Even if you go to the grocery store, prices are high and you're looking like an avocado, like seriously, $1.50 when it was 89 cents. I mean, So the appraiser makes sure that, especially if you're getting a loan that's backed up by the government, the appraiser is going to make sure that that house is worth what they're paying for. Okay, so that's their job. So that's also part of this process, because if it comes back and it doesn't appraise, then there's options there. If it doesn't appraise, then the seller they can ask for the seller to to lower that price, or then there's called like the appraisal gap as well, if it either or. So those things you could talk to your realtor, but that's what the appraiser does. The appraiser will make sure that the house is, give you what the value of the house is, and that's their process in this. But that's also that's important in this process. Um, the title company, I think that's the one that we're missing. So the title company or the real estate attorney's office. This is where all of the other paperwork happens. So in a real estate transaction, you have paperwork that kind of is going in different directions. But like I said, everyone is working together for one purpose only, and that's to get you to the closing table and make sure that all the legal documents are there, that you understand everything, that you sign everything, and then that deed has your name on it. So, the title company or the real estate attorney's office, they will do the due diligence as far as like going searching the title information and making sure there's a clean title and doing all of that on that end. So they take care of that part of the real estate transaction and make sure that all of that is good to go, and that title will be transferred over to you with no problems once the transaction takes place. So all of these parts kind of happen very quickly, um, but there's many parts involved, and everybody is kind of just working together to get you to the closing table. Typical time is 30 to 45 days as far as like from the time you get the offer accepted until you get to the closing table. Obviously, if it's a cash offer, that's a little bit different. That operates a little bit different, but this is just the main things in a normal, in a regular real estate transaction where you have realtors involved on both sides. You have a buyer, you have a seller, and kind of like all the other things kind of fall into place the same way. I kind of like to say that way. All right. So I think I have covered all of the parts. Oh, the title company also keeps, well, the real estate attorney's office, title company, also keeps the escrow. It's if it's not kept in the with the broker. Oh yeah, we didn't cover the broker. I forgot that one. So there's a realtor, a real estate agent, and there's a slight difference between those. It's not. I mean, they're kind of like one of the same, but realtor, kind of have that title because I want to say almost paid for it, but nonetheless, the realtors we belong to a broker, right? So the broker is the actual company. So my broker is EXP Realty. So that's the company that I work for. So that's considered my broker. So in order to be a broker, you have to have at least 3 years of real estate, real estate experience. And then you have to go to class and complete so many hours of schooling to get your broker license, take your test, take your exam, and just to get your broker license in order to operate as your own brokerage. So that's also the difference because you as a buyer or seller, you deal with the agent individually, but that agent is also you're also dealing with the broker. So when you're dealing with paperwork, the broker's involved there too, and the broker's also there to guide the realtor to make sure that they have their part to play as well to make sure that that transaction goes smooth as well. So I think that is about it that I can think in my mind. But well, guys, I think we're going to end it here for today. If you have any more questions, you can put them on the comments and we will address them. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this, the after the fact, hope you had a good lunch. Hope you have a good day. Hope you have a good week. God bless you. Take care. And we will see you here when? Next Wednesday. same time, same place here on my page, Your Agent Loose. Um, Your Agent Loose, live with Your Agent Loose at noon. So you guys have a good one and take care.